So welcome everyone to the Indonesia Study Group. My name is Karina Tucunan, you can call me Dika, and then today we are very delightful to have Karina Tucunan, who's going to talk more about the landscape of emotion and memory, negotiating borders and boundaries in post-colonial Java sacred space. So I'd like to first begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respect to elders past and present. So this is a hybrid event. So later on, we are going to take questions from the audience, in-person audience, and also from Zoom. So let me just quickly introduce Karina. The reason why we are all here, she is a PhD student at the Center for Heritage and Museum Studies at ANU. So today she will explore more about how spaces imbued with memory, blessing, and spiritual continuity challenge formal heritage and urban planning system. So I think without further ado, so let's just welcome Karina to share more about her research. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Karina Tucunan. I'm from Center for Heritage and Museum Study, and thank you for joining me today. And I would like also to express my gratitude to Indonesian Study Group to allow me to present my work with the landscape of emotion and memory, negotiating borders and boundary in post-colonial Java. I'm sorry. I think before we go deeper into the landscape of emotion and memory, I would like to situating myself in this journey because, as you can see, my education background is from urban and regional planning. So basically, I'm from engineering staff, and I don't know anything about humanities and the art at the time because urban and regional planning in Indonesia. I will go here. Sorry. Can I speak up? Okay. Do we have like microphone probably? For this one? Speak here. Oh yeah. I think I will speak here. Is it like okay now?
You can try that. Let's just say. I think we're going to have you talk as close to that as possible.
Okay. Is it okay now?
That's better.
It's better. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and if my voice is not clear, just let me know. So my educational background is in urban and regional planning, and both for bachelor and master degree. And before I pursue my PhD, I have also managed some urban and regional planning works. And urban and regional planning in Indonesia basically is engineering discipline, and it leans more into the quantitative approach, like statistic modeling and also spatial modeling. And however, when we manage some kind of historic district, this is kind of a different area. Now we are not able only to use the quantitative approach because we are now dealing with the identity, value, and also memory and also history as in the historic district. And that curiosity led me to the historic urban landscape approach for my PhD degree. So when I first arrived here in 2022, when I heard people talking about nostalgia and then memory study, I was completely lost that I don't understand what that is. And I was ignorant because I think that I have already know everything. With historic urban landscape, I thought that I only need to find the typomorphology of the city for my study. At the time, that was my thinking. So that's why when I understand now during my third year, my dissertation began to develop, and I began to see the bridge between the urban planning and heritage study. And that's why the landscape of emotion and memory in here is offered as a framework, a symbiosis between those two disciplines. And part of my PhD journey has been the realization that there are limitations within the urban planning epistemology. And one of the most important realizations from this journey is the absence of the memory studies in urban planning. So memory study, this is absent because it's originated from the Western study. So memory, collective memory is theorized by Maurice Haugelas, Maori is talking about that memory is actually socially constructed. So memory, it is not something that is fleeting by individual, but it is also collectively and socially constructed. And later, Pierre Nora, he mentioned that memory also embedded within the place. So memory is not only socially constructed, but also embedded within the place. And then later, John and Aleida Asman talking about how different community conserve different memory. But the problem is people in global south, like for example in Indonesia, they cannot even differentiate between the history and also memory. I don't know about you, but I mean, like, many of Western people are very eloquent about memory study. They understand about remembering, they also understand about forgetting. But for me, for my PhD journey, this is the first time I ever heard about memory. And the problem is when we are talking about historic district, we are talking about living heritage. And when we are talking about living heritage, we are talking about the memory, not history. Because of what? History now is controlled by people of power, right? I mean, like, we understand about that. And the other problem is, like, why many people actually doesn't care about their intangible heritage because they don't take seriously about the memory. For example, the practice of the ziarah in here that I will going to discuss are deemed to be religious practice compared to the memory practice. They only think, oh, this is religious practice. This is not part of our heritage because they don't care, because they don't understand, because they don't define it as our history as well. So that's the part why in global South memory study is kind of bit problematic because people doesn't understand between the difference of history, memory, and they don't also understand that intangible heritage is also part of the memory study. And for urban planning, we have also bad habit. What is that? Our bad habit is we are westernized. We are thinking that the development is actually when we have a westernized city, right? I mean, like in global south, we make, our city as similar as possible with the western city, then we can deem to be developed. And this is urban planner mindset. This is why historic district in urban plan in Indonesia, especially, like, is having a lot of problematic things because they want to be modernized. They don't want to conserve about the intangible memory and also the intangible heritage as well. And this is what I call and here defined as cultural aphasia. It's like a form of forgetting, but in the individual level. And the next is we in Indonesia also has the colonial system to run in our urban planning system. For example, we have segregation between the Arabic quarter, European quarter, and also Kampong quarter. We're still doing the same thing that we did in the colonial era. And the system still persisted until now. And this is what we call post-colonial conundrum. This is what happened in the global south. And even though, like, historic urban landscape in here was introduced by UNESCO in 2011, I really hope I can go there actually, but I can't. And
Yes, if you want to, but just speak louder.
just speak louder, okay. Okay, I think, like, is it better now if I speak in here?
Yes.
Yes. Because I also scream in there and you can see more like understand. Okay, so actually UNESCO in 2011 introduced the concept of historic urban landscape. This is a way of framework to actually integrate a living heritage in the planning urban planning. But the problem, we still have the problem. Even though the originated book about historic urban landscape talking about a lot of conservation about memory, in the guideline when the urban planner read and see them, there is no direct mention about memory conservation. So urban planner never know what is memory. That's what I was experienced during my 3-year-old my PhD. Because I was traveling, I don't understand anything about the language, the department between the technical engineering and all. And I think this is also happened in many countries as well, not only my country. And as a result, because, like, people in power, people in planning doesn't understand about memory, our planning system, even like in historic district, is still like uniform and focused on the technocratic side. And also, even our heritage law is only talking about archaeology and also the buildings. They never mention anything about living heritage. They mention living heritage in different law, but the problem, they are not talking about the ritual, they're not talking about commemoration, they're only talking about copyright. That's the tragic thing about Indonesia. And also, because of that, we have also limited budget in the national planning budget. So mostly in the national planning budget, they are talking about conserving museum, but not the living heritage. And this is like the projection of the research. So I try to do some small research based on the current 2012-2025 in Google Scholar about keyword historical landscape. The keyword is historical landscape. And you will find about 1 million research about historical landscape. And this is like the synthesis from 5,000 literature. And if you can see in here, what is dominant? History. Have you ever, can you see collective memory? Can you see intangible heritage in here? No, right? Because actually there is kind of it. I can show you the part where the intangible heritage and also collective memory will appear but later. And in here, history, as you can see, we are also related highly with the archaeology and also the politics and culture and power. This is the keyword of the historical landscape for 2012 and 2025. It means globally, people also doesn't understand about the importance of the collective memory and also living heritage. That's the tragic thing. Now you can see, can you see, is there any intangible heritage? Yeah, we can see. We can also see in here the collective memories. Sorry, I'm trying to. In here, the small one is collective memory. Yeah, and it is related with the history as well. But this is very small one. And if you can see in here, collective memory is not connected with the intangible cultural heritage. It's also not connected with the urban planning. Urban planning only related with the power, public space, and also innovation. So this is the gap that actually we have in Indonesia for living heritage. So in here, I choose Islamic heritage case study because they represent all the domains we've been discussing. And my research spans from the medieval Islamic era during the time of Wali Songo. Wali Songo means 9 saints. The Wali Songo were the key figure who spread Islam across Java between the 14th and 16th century, so after the Hindu kingdom. And they were not only religious teachers at the time, but also cultural innovator and social and also economic innovator who adapted the local tradition, art, and spatial practice to communicate Islamic value to where it is like resonated with the Japanese society. Their approach was syncretic and blending the spirituality, art, and placemaking. And today, their legacy remains visible as the graveyard and their second side. And during this era, the Wali song actually used the gamelan music and Majopat songs. And also in here, you can see wayang. But this is like special wayang. This is not wayang from the Hindu tradition. This is wayang that made by Sunan Kalijaga. You can see by the deformation of the face, because in Islam, there is a rule that you cannot make something. Sorry. We cannot make something that resembles closely to the human appearance. So they deform the wayang. But the wayang himself, it is not only to teach people about religious things, but they're also talking about the morality. Like for example, don't get drunk, don't get into adultery, don't get into gambling, because at the time, like in Hindu era, there were a lot of gambling using the ayam. Ayam is a chicken. They use chicken as a part of gambling game. And at that time, they were advised, okay, don't do this. But unfortunately, if you are not visiting those graveyards of the Wali Songo, you will not be able to find gamelan. You will be not able to see this kind of wayang, like to give you some morality lesson, but instead we are facing with something else. So community have the initiative to preserve their memory, and their memory is about ziarah, because ziarah is like pilgrimage. So actually they are doing some kind of pilgrimage to the graveyard, and they donate like in the Ramadan, haliman of Ramadan only. But they also donate in the dead, the one someone dead. So they equal like the howl. So basically both ziarah and howl are pilgrimage, but in a different days. And communities still also maintain the pesantren one. Pesantren is Islamic boardings. And the first pesantren actually introduced by Sunan Ampel in 14th century. And this kind of major event like the Ziarah and also Haul attract like 1 million people annually. So people literally come and like they are coming in large buses, and probably like even like in Ramadan we can have like 100 buses arriving in the city. And usually people do it like in all 9 graveyard. But now because like everything get expensive in Indonesia, they only do it like 3 or 4 as the current market fund. I think that actually this case study, the Islamic Sacred Heritage, could actually reveal and challenge the boundaries of planning and heritage framework. And I think it is interesting to see how humanities informed planning will change the technocratic value in the future. So before we go also deeper in the discussion of the result, and in approaching the space, I think like it is important to understand that the sacred space in Islam is kind of bit different than the sacred space in the Anglo-Saxon term. So earlier Anglo-Saxon term used to define clearly between the sacred and also the profane. But in Islamic term, overarching here, sacred and profane binary is a mismatch, she said. And in Islam, there is no profane in Anglo-Saxon sense. Instead, the space is always open to sanctification through ritual of our prayer, dhikr, greeting, and also pilgrimage. So, for example, this space, we can define it as a profane, right? But and then if Muslim come and he or she want to perform salah or prayer here, the place could become sacred for a moment there when they are praying. So it's the different about the sacred and profane in Anglo-Saxon. But however, we do recognize about the degree of the merit. So there are places that actually have a higher degree of merit, sacredness compared to the other state. Yeah. But the problem is the graveyard are actually one of the space that it is question whether it could be a sacred space or not. So this is kind of big controversial. And because our graveyard also historic district, I think it is also good to have the reminder that Laura Jean Smith in here talking about all heritage is intangible. So all heritage is not about only the physical conservation, it's also about the soul conservation in here. And Ken Taylor with the framework of landscape of emotion and memory, which I currently was also saying that there are some kind of relation between the soul and also the physical representation. That's why we represent the landscape of emotion and memory in here. So my methodology is much more qualitative and interpretative, grounded in urban ethnography, and I combine also spatial observation, working interview, and stakeholder dialogues. And my fieldwork focus on 4 key sites, which is Sunan Ampel in Surabaya, Sunan Giri University, Maulana Malik Ibrahim University, and Sunan Kalijaga University. And this is 4 out of 9. So we have 9 graveyard, but I took 14 of this. And I visited multiple times over a year during the Ramadan and during intensity studies. And here my finding from my observation, we have some kind of pattern. So this is actually how emotion and memory set the sacred graveyard. The sacred graveyard is located in the sacred space but they are also consistent of the layer of things. So the outer layer is the first layer. This is by the presentation is from the most profound to the most sacred ancient. And the outer layer mainly surface zone, for example, for bus parking and also transit zone. Because of what? Because the area of the graveyard are located inside the city, and usually inside of the city, we have a lot of dense building, and there will be no space for bus parking. So they have to walk some time from the bus parking or the first layer into the second layer. But in the second layer, this is actually the beginning of the area of the graveyard. And you can see in here, there will be like cars and motorcycle parking and also loud stuff because this is still near the main road. And then after that, you go to the alleys like this, and then you will see like layer of residential and also commercial like in here in this representation. This is the representation in layers too. And after that, as you can see in here, in all the layer, the atmosphere feel like chaotic and also alive. And in here, we can also smell of the Arabic pieces. I will tell you why this Arabic pieces. And also like perfume and incense as well. But we can also smell the sweat of the pilgrims as well, because it is going to be very crowded at the time. Now, it's kind of a different thing. We are entering the different dimension of the second gate. Now, when we enter the gate, oh, I'm sorry, I haven't mentioned that. So, actually, I noticed even though it is a term, we have no definition of second and profound, like definition. But we have also acculturation with the Hinduism. So the Hinduism, like in the Majapahit era, because like Islam had been close with the Majapahit kingdom, they put some kind of gapura. Gapura is gathering. So have you ever visited Bali before? So if you are visited the temple, they will ask you to, like take some fabric and then put it in your clothes. And maybe some people ask you to clean your feet as well, because it is the indicator that you are going to enter their safe space. And this is also happened in the regular banking time. And the polarity here, that's why when we enter the gate, now we are entering the second space, and it is now is a different and perceptible state. Now we can not hear any more chaotic or alive, bustling, and also crowded thing. But now we have a chance of prayer and in people concentration in their prayers, and also the what we call is the vigor is remembrance. So actually, we have some kind of ritual that to remember God, and we call it ethical. And we can also smell it differently because, like in graveyard in Java, we usually have frangipani plants. So the smell of frangipani is blended with also the area of the graveyard. And also in here, we can also like the architecture is reflecting like supporting the different nuance of the Islamic. And in here, there is two kind of figures. So this is what like to present to you about how the atom and also emotion affect the spatial configuration. And you can see in here, there is a two figure. And the first figure is effect on the governance, and then the second figure is effect on the memory and also emotion. And in the first figure, the concentric layer represent different actor and government. And the outer zone in here, we are talking mostly about with the government also playing here. They are mostly managing about the infrastructure, about the bus parking, about the stocks, about the retail, but they never regulate about what happened in the second space. In second space, in different governments, we have what we call Juru Kunci. Juru Kunci is Tum Guardian. So they are the one that preserve the memory, transmitting also the ritual and make sure that the ritual doing well. And in here, we can see that the area is actually occupied by the pilgrim as well as the tourists. Meanwhile, the resident in here is occupying the third and also the fourth area. And the different of the memory also different between the second space and also the outer space. The second space, they containing memory about God first, and then memory about Wali Sama, the ninth city. And they are also remember about the dad. And then in the outer layer, the memory is changing. It is now talking about memory of community life and memory of collective cultural life. But however, they have the same pattern. This kind of memory actually, because they want to sustain what we call barokah in here. That's it. Barokah is the concept where people actually very believe that, if I'm close to God, if I'm close to the Wali Sama himself, because they are thinking Wali Sama are special person from God, right? So I will receive barokah. And barokah is different blessing. For example, if I pray that much, then I will receive sustenance. And the sustenance is not about talking about the hereafter, but also in the world. So, because like human nature, we are very transactional, right? We don't want just, like saving for the hereafter. Because we don't know whether like we are going to get something in the hereafter. But I want also to get something in this world right now. Yeah. And Baroka is encompassing both of the world, like, in the hereafter and also and in the afterlife. And it is actually interesting. So when you actually coming to this sacred space, you will hear people like calling their brother and say, now you have to go to Umrah. Umrah like the pilgrimage in Mecca or Hajj. Allah will replace you directly the money and then like multiply your money. I swear to God, because like I have that's what make the sacred space is sacred. That's what make the sacred space in what's called the Java is magical. Because they do believe that. It's kind of a different level of living. Even like for me, I just like if I don't have that money, even if I can go to Umrah, I don't think I will go because I don't know. And that's why what I'm saying about the governance. I think part of my value that is actually very, very important is how we state that and also acknowledge this memory. So in every historic district, there will be a memory, but we often like forget about it. We never thought about it. I mean, like I'm also a urban planner, and this is the first time I recognize them as a participant, as a respondent, because now I'm realizing that I'm doing the wrong thing. Usually, I would invite the government like uh, the regency, and then people that actually the government sector, and then see what we do with this kind of area. No, because I acknowledge those people. And in this sector space, I have three kind of memory people. First is the pilgrim. So the pilgrim is actually predominantly because like what I said previously. Memory is socially constructed, right? And it is belong to certain community. And in here, this is memory that pilgrimage belong with the often affiliated with the Nahdlatul Ulama in here. They are the grassroots. They are the one that doing the practice of pilgrimage and also the whole. And these are the people that actually from the low economic, social and education. So they will not understand when we are talking about landscape of emotional memory. Even like one of the Islam scholar will preach them about to do praying and something, they will not understand. They understand it through the ritual. So what they do is the pilgrimage because they think that's the ritual that will make them close to God. So this is like something different with a different kind of Islamic society. We have a lot of Islamic society, like for example, different what do you call it? Yeah, like for example, even though like this type of performance is also against by some people, it is strict opposed by some people. For example, there is a Safi tradition and there is a Salafi tradition. I think like some of the previous lecture also mentioned about Salafi. Salafi is more radical and fundamental than while Safi is more culturally rooted in Indonesia. So they are belong to the Safi tradition. And then secondly is the tomb guardian. They are many of them are the descendants, and their job is to preserve and transmit the site history, manage rituals, and also liaise with the authorities. For example, in here my personal interview with Hermine, and she said like, yes, I am one of the descendants of Sunan Kalijaga, and I'm usually responsible for managing the oil. So the tomb guardian, like they have a lot of tomb guardian and they have a lot of different tasks. And lastly, we have residents. So all of the graveyards are located near of the ports of the strategic port in Java Island. So they are shaped by the cultural trading. So most of them are, like have some kind of trace of international or multicultural trace like Arab, Indian, Gujarati, and also we have also local like Japanese and Maldives and anything here. But however, we have divided between the Pahlavi Arab and also Hambali tradition. Pahlavi Arab more close to the Safi'i, which is they are practicing the ziarah and stuff. But Hambali tradition more close to the Salafi that more fundamental and rejected the activity of the different. And this is like, like if I talk to you about remembrance of God, something like that. And this is because like there is a practice in the inner sanctum. And if you can see it here, this is during the Ramadan period. This full of the people as well. And in Islam, it's actually recommended and also fundamental to people to actually remember God. And in here, for the example, I quoted from the Quran, and whoever is mindful of Allah, He will make a way out for them and provide for them where they do not expect. And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is a sufficient body. This is the belief of the Barakah itself. And another core practice is about the prayer and the zikr. And the second practice is about what we call tawassul. Tawassul is actually using the intermediaries. So because the people that they know that the mention is some kind of intermediary. If they pray near to the graveyard, so they hope that their prayer is most likely to be accepted compared to the other location. And this is what we call tawassul. In here, for example, Bas is talking about tawassul. And he said like, if there is Allah's blessing and the blessing of Kanjeng Sunan, inshallah it will thrive. If not, then it means we must else. And Basri is one part of the human. And the third is about reflection about their fountain. Rina in here saying, sometime during ziarah when I'm sitting and praying, I'm reminded of that. Will anyone pray for me when we die? This is what happened in the innocent. It is very beautiful. And then also we also have some kind of an emotional layer in this place. But the emotion is not a single emotion. We know the single emotion is about sad, about fear, joy. No. But we have a specific emotion because the emotion is that what. And it's not just only that. The first is a longing. This is like the hope and sadness to seeking the divine closeness. And the second is what we call khushu'. Yeah, khushu' is the deep focus in prayer. It is marked by the humility and feelings of prayer. So when like Muslim pray, they need to be khushu', like very high concentration. And then the third is repentance. 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 So what we call in Arabic is tawbah, is combining the fear and then self-reflection and the joy of forgiveness. Because like in Islam, if you do the repentance, you will be forgiven. You will be. There is no actually single sin that you will not forgive. But the different thing about, I think like there is some different thing about the Western epistemological memory, because like Western tend to frame memory through the law. Meanwhile, in Islamic understanding, we are talking with continuity, community, and also rest of that. And now we are moving in the outer sanctum, but before that, I think I need to explain about the concept of Baroka, because they think Baroka is in the effect. So as you can see that in outer sanctum, like in the third layer, there is a residential. Yeah. The residential are the people that persisted to be there because they think if they live there, they will receive the Baroka, because we are living near the sacred space. That's what happened in the outer sanctum. So the memory in there is also self-respective and self-atmosphere. But the most important thing is about the receiving the economic benefit through the commerce and also livelihood that bring part as well. So in here, for example, Ismail is mother's resident. Yes, of course, this market exists because of the Baroka of Sunan Ampel. The market thrives, people can sell their goods, and hotels are booked by large cultural groups. Could any of this happen if there were no wali somehow? This is because they practically believe they live in here, they will do some sort of transaction and they will receive the Baroka to the economic benefit. And even like Amisa is in here. So Amisa is the owner for the small shop in Ampel. And I visited him and sat with him like 3 hours. And what happened during those 3 hours, money comes easily. Every minute, like just people come and there's like $10, $20, $30. It's like, yeah, that's some stuff of, oh my God. I mean, like, is this like serious? If that's like, I'm also lectured in my country, I don't have that kind of money. And that kind of money is kind of bit like, come every minute. And they just believe it. And when I said, like, are you thinking to expand your business? And he said, why? I want to be rich. In here, my house, and like, I have 2 houses in here. He was so proud. And like, I can maintain my 10 of my growth, my family. And I have enough here. And that's kind of within the next thing. And actually, this is the most important part as a urban planner, because like, in many historic cities, we have gentrification, right? We have decline in quality and slow quality of the historic site. But no, in the residential of the Islamic graveyard, the price are still pretty high. The price of the homes are still pretty high. For example, 76 meters square on the market now is 1.6 billion rupiah or 100,000 US dollar. I mean, for Indonesian, it is quite expensive because our salary is probably only like $500 a month, and this price is 1,000. It is very interesting. And then after that, they still preserve their cultural collective memory that embodied in moral codes. Like they said, what I said previously, polymorph, rejecting the adultery, drunkenness, drugs, theft, and also conflict. And they still also preserve the communal vigil nights with the ulama. And also tahlilan. Tahlilan is a prayer to remember God when someone died. And they do still have artistic and media transmission, like for example, wayang and tembang and also solo. But however, they don't practice it alone in this separate space. It is only in Sunan Kalijaga and Sunan Bonang separate space. Now we go back to the planar lens. Now you don't like it, because now the nuance kind of bit different. But this is what urban planners do. We identify what kind of activities that actually there are. So I took the activity based on the Google point of interest, based on the Google data. And as you can see in here, this is like the agglomeration of the south. And then in here, restaurant and also facility and tourism spot. What happened? This is our mosque, and this is the restaurant, and this is the tourism spot, and this is the facility. They all have same color, mean they have the similar importance of the place. So if urban planner read it, they will treat the most is the same with the restaurant. There will be no, acknowledgement that this is actually sacred space because this is will be recognized as an important space in urban planner art. There will be like economic saturation risk and blur between the sacred and also the profile. And the problem is because like the area is in the inner city center, there is currently no transitional zone between the tourism priority and also the sacred stuff. And yeah, I think it will be threatening for Baroka and also Kawasu activity if urban planner only see this kind of activity as similar. That's why I think it is important to negotiate something in here. And the first, I think, to recognize the memory keeper as a central stakeholder, because those people like Juru Puji, the custodian, and then the building, even the resident is sustaining the living practice and also community layers here. And the second is we have to acknowledge that we need to shift from only engineering approach to more combined thing about the human, about combining about community and really approach it in a way that appropriate for how history discipline approach. And then the third, I think we need to acknowledging memory and emotion as part of the infrastructure. So we are no longer only talking about the hospital infrastructure or road infrastructure. We are also talking about how memory and emotion is supposed to be involved in the infrastructure of the historic district. And also, lastly, we need to propose the cultural zoning that grounded in memory and planning. Like we must acknowledge the sacred cores like the ritual space and pilgrimage, and also we also need to forget our grounded our marginal spaces, and we need to propose the community memory zone. And to do this, we need to navigate our epistemology order. And we recognize that rationalist planning and memory heritage work is different from epistemology, and we need to propose new kind of methodology and also new epistemology. And then we need to cross in the disciplinary boundary because this is the most important thing to do in here with integrating the memory, the zoning, recognizing the parallel governance, and then share the interpretative and also policy making space. And lastly, we need to respect the boundary of sacred space because, however, if we don't recognize it and we don't respect it as the most important or vital part of the historic district, then it will blur somehow. When what we can do is protecting the liminal space and then shifting the power balance as well and safeguard the spiritual and also emotional integrity of sacred space. Yeah, and in conclusion in here, I think sacred landscape in Java are borderland and shaped by overlapping governance, and but often it is undermined by materialist planning. And my paper actually saw how tourism zones influence this border in a way that disrupt the ritual flow, and yet community continue to negotiate them. And there is, I think, needed to rethink how we control the boundaries. And then this is the invitation that planner must adopt the cultural zoning and protect sacred core and also liminal spaces. And the institution must recognize the memory and emotions as they are infrastructure, and community must continue to perform and transmit memory tradition that give them sacred and spiritual life. And if we take memory seriously, heritage planning can save from only policy border to negotiate and moving beyond the purely physical towards settling the living soul of sacred space. I think this is enough for me. Thank you very much.
I want to say it might be great if Karina goes back behind the stand now because we have a very large audience online. And I want them to be able to see her. So maybe just stop sharing the slides into the camera on Karina. It'd be great for our Zoom audience.
All right. So thank you so much, Karina. So now we have plenty of time for Q&A. for me, it's just really fascinating, the clarity of representation. I'm an economist. Everything is very new, and I can totally follow the whole story. And I'm sure that many of you in the audience, you also have some questions. So before asking a question, just quickly introduce yourself. Karina and I think we've been at Amy for quite some time, and this is the first time I'm meeting her in person, knowing her in person. So if you want to ask questions, you can raise your hand. Any question you may have from the audience? Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Karina. Thank you very much for your presentation, which on every slide was fascinating,
Thank you.
and every slide raised 1,000 questions. So I don't know where to begin. But I'm just thinking of your final point that these places of pilgrimage need to be incorporated into, I think you call it statutory planning,
Yeah,
or something like that.
Statutory
Yes.
planning.
And I want to ask you, first of all, I've got many questions.
Yeah. No problem.
Don't you think that that would instantly destroy much of the sacred and special character of the sacred place? For example, if the sacred tombs of Surabaya, for example, are drawn into the statutory process, it imposes, among other things, the Indonesian language on the site, whereas most of the history of that site is in Javanese. So the very first thing that your statutory or the government intervention or incorporation into government planning would do would be to push aside the medium that is the main source of popular history, the main source of memory, and the main source of emotion. So my question to you is, how can you deal with that dilemma of trying to define, as you say, trying to give respect and a place for popular memory, but using instruments, government instruments, which may actually destroy it?
Okay.
Okay, then introduce yourself to the audience. Introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, yeah, my name's George Zia in Java.
Oh, okay.
So that's my, I'm a retired academic here at the ANU, but very, very retired now.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, for historic urban landscape, have you ever heard previously about historic urban landscape?
My hearing is not good, Karina.
I know. Historic urban landscape.
Not really, no.
No, so historic urban landscape is a guidance from UNESCO.
Yeah.
So actually guide the planner to create some kind of master plan directly to protect the heritage. So it is only in the historic area. And currently in Indonesia, we have what we call Kota Pusaka. Kota Pusaka is historic city planning. It is like a statutory planning. It is like for regular and formal planning. But the problem is the practice. They're only thinking about the tourism side of planning of the historic district, how to commercialize the historic. They never talk about this kind of memory. They never talk about CRIs, like memory is going to be for that. They treat the CRI like tourism activity. How people can come to the CRI every year. But the problem is, if people get the pilgrims not feeling connected anymore with the sacred space, then probably in 10 years we have no people can do this together. That's why I think like it is important, to actually put this kind of conversation with the government to tell them this is the memory of the people. You have to protect it, and this is how you can help them. So actually planning is only tools, statutory planning is also tools. And tools is depend on how we use it. We can use like knife for killing people or for cooking the good food. right? I think like part of the most important thing as urban planner that now almost graduated from university is use the night to cooking the good food, not to prevent other people. I don't know what you think. I mean, like, I would like to know more about your experience with your and stuff.
Well, can I give one example of the kind of conflict that can arise?
Okay.
The New Order government, President Suharto's New Order government, created a huge development project at a place called Kitong Ombo,
Oh, yeah.
near north of Solo. It's a huge reservoir,
Yeah.
dammed reservoir, intended to produce irrigation water for fishing and for tourism, for supplies of water for the surrounding community, so on and so forth. But when the lake was created, it flooded a sacred site.
Okay.
There was a sacred site, the tomb of Nihagen Serang down there was completely flooded. So you might have thought that that sacred site, a cemetery, a sacred cemetery might be lost because modern pembangunan had completely flooded.
Yeah.
But what did the local people do? They had such a strong attachment that they created a small shrine, a small house really, that floated on the lake. And it went out and they anchored it above.
Today at 2:30 p.m. in the Menzies Library foyer. Enjoy a free snack and hot drink, take a break from studying and claim your body back. That's today in 1 hour at 2:30 p.m. See you then.
They created a floating shrine and anchored it above the cemetery, above the makam. Yeah. And I've been there twice.
Oh.
You have to get on a motorboat, go out on this huge lake, out to the shrine, which is anchored above and it's very emotional, as you say, very emotional for the people to go there. It's the first thing you notice when you go into a sacred site, as Karina said, absolutely true, is the grip of emotion. And I very much appreciate the divisions of kinds of emotion that you feel. That's very insightful. Thank you. So now planning.
Yeah.
The planning meant that that sacred site had to be destroyed.
Yeah.
But the local people would not allow it. They were so strongly attached emotionally that they actually created a floating shrine, a floating tungko above it. It's extraordinary, really. And that is an illustration, at least from my experience, of the power of emotion that you have very you've been very insightful in focusing on that. I think you're absolutely on the right track to with this kind of history and this kind of memory, and especially associating memory and history with emotion. Because as academics, we're often told, we're often told, don't be emotional.
Don't be emotional.
That's wrong. Okay. Be emotional, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the problem, why I write my entire presentation. Because the first I was so dumb, I was so ignorant. I was that kind of learner that you describe, because like I didn't even have knowledge for memory. I didn't even treat the memory is important. Because like important planner mindset, we are currently most of them are the enabler of people of power. But now here I am one of the people that's studying. I'm trying to be, but it is like very narrow and selective work because like now there is actually a planner that's going to be understand what the importance of the memory, and I need to be a scholar, go back to my country and deliver this important process. That's why I'm like, this is like the realization that I had like in my third year of my PhD, and that was a awakening process for me because previously I just thinking like, okay, I will find the pattern of the Islamic history art. I actually found the three types of pattern, Kota Bandar, Kota Kegiatan, and also Kota Kata. And those have a different kind of pattern of memory. First is the memory that preserved by the graceful. And then second, Kota Kegiatan is memory that erased by the power. And then lastly, the Kota Kata is memory that conserved by the power. And they have a different, and this is only part of mental pain. And I want to communicate that to my fellow urban planners. Don't do this because it's something that you have to be careful with. That's why I putting memory keepers that, for example, community that actually, for example, in the understand to be as their respondent and list of what they are value, what they want in the historic side, and it's kind of an enhancement for any urban plan. Because like, firstly, they don't understand anything. And I think this is what I'm doing, right? Thanks for the
Very well.
Thank you. Thanks for validation.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, Nafa, go ahead.
Thank you.
May I speak louder? Oh, yeah.
My name is Nafa. But it was really fascinating. I just have a question about the private sponsorship, if any, in this historical urban sites renovation. Because, for example, my kampung is in Jombang, in East Java, and there is a historical site of the tombs of NU founders. And recently, when I went there, they have. So, when I was a kid, the bathroom was very traditional. There was no water, there was a well, and there was not proper plumbing or anything like that. The last time I went there, it was very modernized. The bathrooms were clean and, ceramics and all that. But there are signs of, this was built by someone or something. So I felt it was very unsightly.
Yeah.
It just ruins the sacredness of the site. But so I just want to know, what are the regulations around this private sponsorships?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's very the latest I think I also need to give you the information. Historic is different thing. Historical is something in the past, and history is still sustained by the community. So in the site can actually still history from the society, but now it's receiving sponsor. Usually people with the power of doing that. Like for example, the one Dura, like the agency and of the village or something like that. They will say, okay, you can order this people, and that's what automatically outside. So I think it is depend on the government as well, how to see, because like literally in many level of government now, even like in our expert in heritage, they never mention about memory. Have you ever like in Indonesia talking about, this is memory study and this is kind of really for people? Because they don't know. They only thinking that the only history is history relatively something that's controlled by the government. They don't appreciate that kind of thing. It's your memory like to have that kind of, nuance and also experiences. Your memory speaks everything comes to the government, to the head of what is not that important. Because they don't know. It's kind of vividly active. This is kind of ignorant. Not because they want to speak up. I think it is our job now to actually work in the stuff again. We're doing that. That's something that and I just know the difference between history from my supervisor. He was like, right, historical, this is something different. I just like, okay. And like as an Indonesian, it is something that term that kind of term we never really have it. Yeah, so I mean, like I don't have much experience with but that kind of practice because like of ignorant thing and like it's something that they don't know. I think it is not cruelty or something, but because we haven't really engaged to that kind of knowledge. And this kind of knowledge, I think hopefully is going to help many people in the future.
Thank you. So now I think we move to Q&A from Zoom. We have 70 people. in Zoom. So the question is rather long, so
Okay.
I have a questions online from Focus App. Yeah.
He said, "What a fascinating presentations, Karin. I apologize if I missed some of your earlier points. I'm particularly interested in how we balance the invitations among planners, institutions, and communities, as you explained. These actors often have different interests and agendas. Given that policymaking in Indonesia remains largely top-down, when state authorities impose specific policies, how can we ensure that community social cultural values are not negatively affected? What role can planners as mediators between institutions and communities play in this process? And finally, how can we know whether the cultural zoning is truly aligned with community expectations? And how can we ensure that communities actually understand the zoning itself? Your presentation strongly resonates with my current PhD research trajectory, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Regards from your forever student who's now chasing his dreams.
Here's my alumni of one of the university. Now I have to answer that. Okay. So thank you, Bagus. I mean, okay. Hi, Bagus. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your question. I mean, like I have already mentioned that uh, don't ask something difficult. But because,
Speak louder.
sorry?
Speak louder.
Yeah.
You can, yeah. It's up to you where you want to finish.
Okay. Because I mean, like this is the same question when I was attending Oxford conference as well. There is also one speaker that come from urban planning, and she also pursue her degree at humanities and the art. And I asked her the exact same question, like what we do as an urban planner, because like many urban planner, like almost 90%, they never receive this kind of information. They are only being enabler people of power. They're only doing something technocratic like spatial mapping and then projection of the population and then zoning regulation, something like that. But they never understand that they actually sideline the historic district, the memory, the heritage. And she said, like, I don't know, because this is like something that we have to fight for. This is something long term. And I think for myself, because I'm a lecturer, I'm also a lecturer in my home country. What I think first is to put this into the curriculum in urban and regional planning study. And offering those curriculum actually is going to be like long term, because many of the projects of urban planner like RDTRK, RTRW is like spatial planning, are funded by government with large sum of money. But with this kind of money, the large sum of money, they also came with a specific direction, right? This is going to be the industrial place. This is going to be the place. They don't care also about the community thing. But as an educator, we have to inform the people. We have to, actually sculpting our student to understand the consequences about this kind of planning. If you are being ignorant, you will save the worst city. You will only save about the city that deemed to be modernized and only legible for the people for the power. So I think the first thing that I need to do, then probably Bagus also will join the academia later, is to change our student mindset and put it in the curriculum. And so how this is affected in our city. Because currently there are a lot of urban planners that working through this, like for example in Oxford, I met Ben Freiberg, and he also working in the same epistemology. And we as a planner have to know that we are different side with this kind of epistemology. And this is the first thing that I can do. And I don't know about the next, but when I got back, I will definitely try to, educate my student in the future that they need to understand about the impact of the planning and also how planning see the world and also see the memories. I think that's the short term that I can do. And secondly, we can actually working with the private funded sector like NGO and some kind of, we have like BUMN in there. BUMN is like semi-private and also government company that actually also care about memory and heritage, and we can also work with them. But the funding is not going to be as much as the government funding, but we have to fight for whatever, because like this is like the important thing that we communicate to other people as well.
Any other questions from the audience? Yeah. Introduce yourself.
I'm Firman from Innovation Project. You mentioned in passing a little bit about smells and scents.
Yeah.
Part of your memory.
Yeah.
That's really very interesting. It's related to what Quinn's question was. You thinking about planning this thing that will also one of the things you will lose is all this multitude of different smells, good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
The smells? Okay.
Yes.
Well, because I mean, like, smell is tied to the location as well. That's like, like in other location, the smell is pretty good, it smell of food and also perfume. But yeah, if the pilgrim time coming like in Ramadan and it is very crowded, we can smell other people outdoors, of course. But I mean, like, that's temporarily. But in the second space, the smell is persistent, I think. It is, that's why like they use some kind of frangipani, like a plant that actually neutralize the odor. But I don't think it is like working. It is like just mixed between the graveyard and also. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, all the combination of smells. Yeah, the combination of smells is
The chocolate pandan. Oh, okay. Pandan is. Yeah.
And
I think the combination of smells is what makes it taste.
Oh my goodness.
Like all this Yemeni food.
True. Have you ever seen that one?
I'm telling you, it's
Oh, okay.
and also Gujarati.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
without the smell is.
But now in some places, they go to the supermarket and buy air freshener. And yes, and take them into the tungku and spray them.
Yeah, so I think like this, because like in graveyard, there are a lot of graveyard, right?
Yes.
I mean, like even in the outer area, you can still smell the, I don't know, I mean, like the smell is kind of beginning because of the smell. I have never tried the pandan, but I will recommend it to the some guardian.
well, I think in Sulawesi and Maluku, that's what that you when you ziarah, you take chopped down pandan and the graves are completely covered in and almost all the time it never goes away. Yeah, because it's always being renewed by people. I mean,
And it triggers me.
yeah, that's right. It's very.
I think that's a pretty valid point. I mean, like the smell, I don't know what people think because like for the buildings, they are not bothered by the smell. But they think it's just part of their journey. But for people that actually tourists, they are going to complain about it. Even like some tourists, like because I previously used some online and from Google COI, and some people thinking that this place is not welcoming non-Muslim because they don't allow me to go to the mosque or something like that. So I mean, like it is kind of a different memory we look into that. So I think it's the same with the smell. I mean, some people will going to be like, okay, this is where I feel so comfortable with this kind of smell. Some people will find it like, okay, I need to do something about this smell. But yeah, but if we are prioritizing the memory department, we let them smell like that. Are you pilgrims or are you tourists?
Tourist.
Even I'm not part of the pilgrim as well, but I appreciate the memory because I just understand because previously I only see this kind of era and also how it's part of how we Islamic people. It's part of the family also and that's understand.
And I think that's really important point because I have had a big grievance against Aman and their definition of Indigenous peoples, because one of their categories that you have to tick in order to be regarded as a masyarakat ada is you have to have the graves on the luhur. We appreciate them, but in the area where I do field work, there are people who I would consider, and who talk about themselves as the Orang Asli. They don't use masyarakat ada; they use Orang Asli. And they look after the graves near the Luhur. Every Idul Fitri, every Isra Miraj, they go and they clean the graves and look after them, but they're Muslim.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of invisible. So I really appreciated the point you made at the very beginning of talking about that, you know, there's some sort of prejudice, you know, that you can't be something that's defined culturally.
Yeah.
If what your culture is Islamic practice. And it used to make me really cranky. And that the international NGOs and what are they called? Commonwealth were championing these other people in the area. It's a long story, I won't go into the whole story, who found one grave. These people were Christians, they found one grave. But the fact that they were Christian was hidden from all of their self-avowal of who they were. But these people who were very devout Muslims and very careful about, you know, looking after the graves of their ancestors, that didn't tick that box, in my opinion. Yeah, so I really appreciated your point. Yeah.
Because I've been some people from the when they are studying about the religion and they say that, oh, this behavior is not part of Islam. No, bro. I mean, like you just don't understand it. This concern to the memory. This is not part of the Islam report. This is not part of the Eid or the economic prayer. This is just people taking care of their memory in their own way. They're doing some kind of Islam practice there, but they never, you know, like worship this kind of prayer. They just want to preserve because they still want it. And they cannot even set that as well. That's why the president.
Say, oh, I'm doing this. This is my culture, or this is my religion.
Yeah.
They just do it as part of their own practice of who they identify as, and they identify as Muslim people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that now only they are Muslim, they would differentiate. When they know about the different one, they are taking care of the memory and it is part of it. Now we are going to say something different about it because now we understand this is a concept in memory. It's not part of the ritual. That's need to be understood as well. So I think that the memory series going to change a lot of things. Especially in grown ups, they understand, oh, what I might think now is not practice of the ritual, it is practice of taking care of memory. And memory is important for everyone, right? I mean, we have memory also, making difficult memory. We don't want people to negate the memory for ourselves, right? And even at our generation of memory, we have the rule and I think like it is important to recognize that kind of memory, taking care of memory, not practice of the Islamic aspect. I think it is going to make the bridge understand, especially between the staff, the tradition and also some of the tradition. Because now they can see, oh, they is not doing they don't practice and doing. Then hopefully this kind of opening conversation about how actually Muslim behave for one another Muslim. Because sometimes it can be very hostile, you know, like moms, oh, you are doing that, already you are not part of the program. But then you also come that point, because I think there's also part where my work is also important, especially in the
So after you, Kathy, we have a question from the room.
One questions from our online attendees. Thank you for presenting the lecture. You said that wayang in the context of cultural collective memory are ways to transmit Islamic value, but wayang stories are based on Hindu stories. How do you explain the mixture of cultural influences in transmitting Islamic value?
Okay. So actually wayang is come from the Hindu tradition. It is not solely from the Islamic one. So wayang transform, I think, if I'm wrong, you can correct it because you both like have a very good experience about Indonesia. And because like originally wayang is performed the Hindu story, but Mahabharata, like Rama and stuff. And then later when the Wali Songo came, and then they made character what we call Punapawan. Punapawan is Bagong Semar. I forgot, but this four is in the story like the clones of the kingdom. They actually perform with them comedy and also moral story to inform the people about Islamic teachings at that time. And of course, after the Wali Songo passed away, the preservation of Wayang, mostly the karaton. The karaton is different because now they are also come back with the Hinduism tradition. So karaton is most likely like almost not pure, but in sense of like have a stronger Islamic value more than the karaton one, because in the karaton one people turn to again to the syncretism of the religion. So they still practice Muslim, but they also still having the Javanese tradition. So wayang that actually currently in the story now, not part of them are largely from the Islamic story. So most of them also from the original story from the Hinduism, but also still modified, and then from the Karaton stuff. Even like in Order Baru, in New Order, we have also modified wayang story about resistance by Petro Dedi Ratu. Petro Dedi Ratu means Petro Ikan. It was initiated for the Soeharto era at that time. So wayang practically largely only the tool as well. So I mean, they have to be understand about that as well. So when we say like, is there any pure teaching Islam for wayang? Yeah, but for me, because like I'm not studying the arts section or performance section, I don't know much about which performance is actually pure like in the Islamic era and which one is already modified. But for the song or tembang, we have lyric, we have I forgot. But we have some song that actually originated by that. Yeah, I think that's one.
Any other questions? Mir, are you an urban planner? You have questions? No? Oh, yeah. Kathy?
Although, no, I'm not, I didn't really have my hand up, but I'll just make a comment about this idea about, cultural purity or being able to tease things out. I mean, and the Indonesian archipelago is this wonderful set of moving parts of people moving through and traditions changing. And I was just in East Java 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
I went to Gresik. It was like,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm born in Gresik.
But I also went to is it Candi Jago and Candi Hindu? Yeah, near Pasuruan, and what the people there were, I don't know what you call it, but like the Juru Kunchi person, who was there, was showing us with, I can't remember which one, but in the freezers, about how these were really important because the freezers reflected not just Hindu stories, but East Javanese stories. So already, you've got this, because how do you tell a story? You tell a story by using tropes and so on and so on that people understand. Like in South Sulawesi, the standard sort of story is to say, why did the Bugis Makassar people masuk Islam? Oh, because you had the three Datu who came. And they understood, they said to people, this is what old people in the village will say to you. They said, look, you're already Muslim. You do this and you do this and you do this. You're already Muslim. So, I mean, culture is always transmitted and religion, culture, religious culture by people. And so there's you can't.
Yeah, you can cut it like
You can't cut it like that. You can't say, oh, this is, and that's what people have fights about. This is real Islam. This isn't real Islam. What a losing problem.
Yeah.
Really, what's the point? People, I mean, when I did a lot of my students did research in Eastern Indonesia, and one of them actually found in one particular area, because it's not very localized, because how did those people become Islam? They masuk Islam because somebody came, and it was often might have been a single trader or a couple of traders who married a local woman and blah, blah, blah. And so it goes on. So they found Shia practices in the practices at the tombs. They weren't Shia. They didn't say, oh, we are Shia.
Yeah.
But he could identify particular things that they did in their ziarah practice, which were Shia. So I mean, it's so interesting, and it's more interesting to accept the 100 flowers, isn't it, than to try.
Yeah.
This is wrong, this is right.
Yeah, true.
And this is important for your work
Yeah,
too, because memory encompasses
Yeah.
all of those different dimensions of tradition that get reproduced and enacted by people in their daily lives.
Even like individual culture, like it's consistent, like for me, for example, I'm also German, I'm also Muslim, I'm also,
Yes.
yeah, you cannot just,
And you're an intellectual, you're all those things.
True.
Yeah. See, now the fact that you're an intellectual is
Yeah.
impacting on the way that you think about all of these things as a Muslim, as a Javanese, as an Indonesian. So,
yeah, we can.
so it goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like this is like a very great answer, you know, like the culture is also developed and the culture is not defined by just something, a definition of, okay, this one is pure and this one is not pure, no. Because even in Islam, you know, like we allow some sort of culture, you know, we allow, there are a lot of things that allow, but unfortunately, people that are very go with the fundamental thing, they will just like, oh, this is not acceptable, this is not acceptable, but I don't think, I think like there's only like 20% of the people, but majority of 80%, they accept the differences. Even like in Islam, in Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we have 4 mazhab, yes, yeah, mazhab schools. So we have schools of thought, and we have differences even in how we cover ourselves. For example, Safi, I'm Safi. So, you know, like in prayer, we have to also cover this one. And in Hambali, like, you know, like they don't bother with the food because in Hambali it's fine to pray with the food often. So what's the point? I mean, like to define, oh, this one is not Islamic because like the knowledge is not there yet. Hopefully it's answered.
Any other last questions? You all can also ask questions.
And you
Yeah, you have questions, yeah. So I think my question is that, have you seen like any practice like in Indonesia where there's sort of like a best practice in terms of how urban planner thinks about checker space and preservation?
Unfortunately, not yet. Because like, yeah, they haven't like really recognized about the memory and stuff. I think like this is going to change the conversation hopefully in the future because I don't think many Indonesian also will force us about the memory, even like the one that actually practice the and claim themselves to be the heritage expert because like they cannot differentiate between the history and also memory. They always talking about this is the history, this is the history, but they don't really attach it with this is related with the community.
What do you think about when you were talking, I was thinking about, and I couldn't quite connect it up to what you're saying, but all of the activities that I think Indonesia's been very involved in with the UNESCO World Heritage and Intangible Cultural Heritage. Have you thought about that very much in terms of
Yeah,
the way?
Indonesia proposed like colonial heritage as their
Oh, really? As intangible culture.
yeah, because of what? Because like Indonesia, we are, you know, we likely to preserve something tangible. And you know, colonial heritage, we have like a very strong build, right? Compared to the, you know, the local one. The local one made from the woods and, you know, some semi-permanent material that is not going to be sustainable long term. But most of the city, like when we have what we call historical urbanization, they propose two. Kemarin and also Jakarta Old Town colonial inside. And they don't even care what the feelings or the remembrance of people that actually fought for Indonesia. That's what we call cultural aphasia and also post-colonial control. Because this is what we in Indonesia experience. We enjoy the colonial belief. Colonial is pretty cool. They don't enjoy it. They don't, yeah. I think that's the most important thing that, you know, like, this is what happened in many global south countries. I think this is not only in Indonesia. In everywhere, I think like I see many historical organization proposals come from many countries, is including the colonial side. And like, okay, I think we haven't done right for this because we need to educate our people as well.
We still have a couple of minutes. Maybe you can really share with us in terms of your next steps from now, and then also how people can reach out to you if they want to continue discussions, and then where are you going to teach in Indonesia, etc.
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
I think I will, my plan is to submit my thesis in February 2026, hopefully. Because now I'm in my writing phase. And I require to teach again in February by my institution. And I will teach at Institute Technology School November or ITS in Surabaya. And you can contact me there. And for email, you can contact me at my email. My name Karina.Tucunan@nu.edu.au. And I think my plan is just to start teaching and start to uh, try to propose to my country as well, to my institution to put some kind of memory as a curriculum as well. Because I think it is important when you manage of the historic district or even not only historic district, I think strategic city, they need also money. And I have also, before I got back, recently I got offer from the mining company in Indonesia to do their corporate social responsibility. And I told them, okay, if you're going to do corporate social responsibility, what I do is I'm going to preserve the community memory and also put the community first in this master plan. And if you are not get along with it, then you can find another consultant. I think this is like the simple thing that I can do right now, and I hope that this kind of movement and when people are realizing, my students understand about this kind of differences, how we actually can contribute to our future. Hopefully, it could change the landscape of urban planning like in the future. I think because this is still need to be fought for. Even like planners all over the world that having degree in humanities and you are still fight about this kind of politics. And I really hope with 70 people there, and if you are working with the urban planning side, please choose side with community, choose side with your people. Don't do not only choose because there is a money there, but because people with the power there, but you have to be very sensitive with our future and community future as well. I think it's enough.
We're really looking forward for your dissertation, and also you mentioned you're also working on journal articles based on your work.
Yeah.
No pressure, but best of luck with all your plans. And I think we can give her a round of applause. I think.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's just really amazing. Now you can do it.